Hey guys, in this session, we're going to be looking at simple fractions to decimals and percentages. A really good thing probably before you watch this video is to go back and have a look at the previous videos in this series because there's a lot of things that I'm going to kind of rush through a bit in this particular video. And of course, watching that series would help you out a lot. Right, so before we kind of get into converting to decimals, what I'm going to show you guys is like getting to percentages first. Because once we get to percentages, then you can kind of see the link of how quickly it is to get to decimals. So really, I probably should have renamed this to percentages and decimals, but it's all right. Let's just get going. So to get to percentage, what we want to do is we want to actually bring the denominators, all of these denominators, we've got a 10, 5, 4, and a 2. So I'm talking about these denominators here. I want to change them all to 100. All right, so I've got to figure out what I got to do to get all of them, all of those denominators to be over 100. So if I look at the first situation, I know that I need to multiply 10 by 10 to get to 100, which means I've also got to do the numerator. So 1 times 10, 1 times 10 is going to be just 10, so that's 10 over 100. Cool. Let's look at the next one. So we've got next one. I've got 5, and I want to convert that into 100, which means I've got to go 5 times 20, which means I've also got to do that in the numerator because 20 times 5 is 100. And of course, 20 times 1 is going to be 20. Let's look at the next one. I've got 4, and I've got to multiply by some number to get to 100. Well, in this case, I know it's going to be 25 because 4 times 25 is 100. And also I've got to do 1 times 25, which equals to 25. So far, so good. And of course, I've got that half, which is a 2. And I know that I've got to multiply by 50 to get to 100, which means I've got to do the same for the numerator. 1 times 50 is actually going to give me 50. Now, you're wondering, why did I do all of them over 100? Because when you want to actually convert, when you want to actually write if you think about a percentage, right, like a 10 over 100 is 10%. That's what it is. So I simply can just rewrite this as now, if I want to write this 1 over 10 as a fraction, from fraction to percentage, that's just going to be 10%. This here is going to be 20%. This here is going to be 25%. And finally, 50 over 100 is going to be 50%. All right, so anytime you want to convert a fraction to a percentage, what you could do is just figure out a way to get the denominator into 100, and that should give you a percentage. Alternatively, I am going to show you guys when those numbers are like, say for example, like 1 over 7, and you want to convert that to a percentage. I'm going to show you guys that later in another video in this series. But yeah, pretty much this is how you do simple fractions. We're looking at simple fractions, which is like a tenth, a fifth, a quarter, and a half. Now, how do we convert these into decimals? Again, doing it to decimals is, I'm going to go back to those fractions there. I'm just going to kind of write them out here. So we've got 10 over 100, 20 over 100, 25 over 100, 50 over 100. Now, as fractions, this just becomes 0.1. I mean, you could kind of put that at 0.10. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's kind of like, when someone asks you to write a number 5, you don't really write the number 5 like this. You don't put those 4 zeros in front of it. So kind of very similar with decimals on the right-hand side. If there's like a whole bunch of zeros, we don't really worry about it on the right-hand side after the decimal. So even though we can say this is 0.10, when we actually write it, we're just going to write it as 0.1. So when you look at 20 over 100, that's going to be 0.20, or also the same thing as saying 0.2. Finally, looking at 25 over 100, well, that's 0.25. And we don't really worry about the zeros again after the 25. And we can't really let go of the 5 because that's actually becomes 0.2, which actually is 20%. And finally, 50 over 100, we can write that as 0.50, or we just write that as 0.5. And again, just to reiterate, we don't actually write those zeros after the decimal and a number, it's kind of like it's inverse way of thinking about it. So if you think about it, when someone asks you to write the number 7, you don't actually write 00007 because it's no point saying that it's got 0 tens or 0 1, so 0 tens or 0 100s. You don't really say that. So it's kind of very similar when we're actually going with this side. This is going to be like the tenths, 100s, and so you kind of go, well, actually, there's no 0 100, so you don't really write that 0 in the next line. Oops, did that mistake there. But yeah, pretty much, guys, this is more like an info video rather than a what do you call a method. But yeah, these methods still do work for other numbers as well. You can always just chuck it in the calculator and kind of work it through. But pretty much simple fractions, decimals, well, percentages and then decimals. That's how you do it. Yeah, that's basically it for this video. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.